Well, welcome back. So I wanted to talk about unit tests because I just finally got this set up today. It's something I had a lot of trouble with in the past, and it's frustrating because testing is so important to your code. Not for like so many reasons. One is it makes your code more readable. That's what people don't really think about too much. It makes your code more readable and maintainable and extensible because in order to test things properly, you have to write better code. Not to mention, the obvious thing is it prevents bugs, right? So I just wanted to kind of show everyone and my future self how I got this all working. So what I did here is there's a specific use case. I had this really bad class that, let me show. So I have this like language that I created and this parser that reads it, and now Visual Studio's frozen, so that's a good thing. Okay. Oh, wait. Well, whatever. This is good enough. So I have this like language, and I recently made a new feature for it. This is kind of like functions. And you don't have to understand exactly what this means, but the point is, whenever you take some input file like this, some input text, it should convert it into something like this. And yeah, I'm not going to bother explaining it because that's not really the point of this. But if you pause it, you can probably figure out what it does. Anyway, so I had this thing and I was having a lot of trouble actually setting it up, so I said, okay, unit tests are finally worth really doing because it'll help me do this like in a more test-driven development way, where I can write the test, figure out how to make this work after the test is already written. And it's just the perfect thing for it. So I was like, okay, let me try to set it up again since I had trouble before. So what I did was I made a new folder, and here's the nice thing. In window, somewhere in here there's like testing. General probably. Test runner. Okay, we'll just put this here. And anyway, I just made a folder here, and then inside that I created a testing. See, here's the thing. I remember that this was grayed out. So what I did first was I created a test assemblies folder. And we can do that here real quick, just to see what happens. So we go to testing, test assemblies folder, and we'll just call it stream tests. So we go into this, and Unity sets all this up with some basic an assembly file. So in the inspector, let me move this over here so you guys can see it. It creates this assembly. So now the problem with this is any class that's inside this file requires, I'm not sure exactly how it works, to be honest, but basically in these assembly definition references, you have to add other assemblies into it. So it's like, so these are like different compiled versions of your scripts and other people's scripts that you have in your code, some Unity ones. And the idea behind this is they want you to use assemblies because they don't want you to have to compile everything just to run your tests, right? But so the problem I had getting this to work was that Unity couldn't recognize my classes, so I had to go and add a new assembly definition, and it was just a big pain. And so I went through all of my other classes until I found out that there was some like Anima 2D and other Unity things that conflicted if I made an assembly definition, so that was just frustrating me. Ooh. So I just said, okay, let me, oh, where did I put this? Let me just delete this and then see if it works after that. And you know, like this, yeah, who cares? And yeah, so I'd already written most of the test, but I was getting a red underline. Oh no, I just messed everything up. Because I was trying to call my class that I was actually trying to test. And that's dependent on so many other things in so many different places that it was just causing so many problems. So I just deleted it, and then now I guess somehow Unity automatically knows that everything should be included in the assembly and the compile time for this, and so now Unity can find it, and then you know I was just able to run all after this and they work, right? So it's really simple to set up, and this is just the way I did this is I just created a new testing C# test script. You know, we'll just do that. And you know, see here it sets it up with test. And you can just fill in this. And I'll show you how this stuff works. I also created a bunch of test resources, which are these files that I can use to like parse in. So that's kind of the end of like the Unity side of the tutorial. I also wanted to talk about unit testing in general while I'm here, since I kind of like how this turned out. Although it's not complete, it still is enough to make me feel like, well, honestly, by the time I was finally got it to work, I was like, whew, boy, let's just stop for now. But anyway, so the way this works here is I made this private function. The actual tests are these, and they just call that private function. So one thing with unit tests that I think is a great thing is just, like some people like putting comments here and saying, this is what the test does. I like just using the function name, just because then you can actually see it in here. Okay, recursive template populates values correctly. Okay, so that actually does work. Templates are removed from the stream. Okay, cool. Templates are instantiated correctly. Nice. These are not the best names I've ever created, but you know, they work. Try to be more descriptive so that whenever you see one that fails, you're like, oh, this is the actual problem with my bug, or with my code. And the thing to think about tests is that these are like the requirements of your function or class that you're trying to test. Okay, so specifically I was saying, let's look at this. This is a basic one. Where do I use it here? So you can split tests into three parts: a setup, a trigger, and the validation. So the idea here is to set it up, we just create an input stream reader that uses this text file, the text file you pass in. The trigger is the actual class function you're trying to call. In this case, I'm trying to test compile templates to stream, which takes in a stream that has templates that may or may not have templates inside of it, and then returns a new returns a stream that has the output, right? And so what I do is then to validate that, I just say assert the streams are equal, which is kind of a fuzzy equal because I have my own logic for doing that, which I'm not going to explain too much. But the idea is basically that I don't care about white space. So if you have this, that's the same thing as this. Yeah. Anyway, so back to the tests, there should be requirements. So now I'll explain this a little bit more. So this is a template if it has this @ symbol. It's basically a function in coding, right? So you can pass in arguments, like this is the function being called. You pass it in with the argument test ID, name, and test image, and then these basically get populated with that, so that this one is the test ID, that one's test name, that one's test image. So that's how you can see it here. Let me just do this so you can see it at the same time. Yeah, so that's how test ID got replaced here, and test name got replaced here, test image got replaced here, right? Pretty simple. So I was just like, okay, what's a basic requirement of this type of thing? Well, one is, if your file doesn't even contain any templates, it shouldn't be changed at all. So I said, okay, a stream without templates is not modified. Perfect. So I just said, this file is the input, and the expected output is the same file, right? This code works for all three, for that, for sure. And, yeah. So then, templates instantiate correctly. That's this test. Okay, so we take in this file, which say, okay, here's the template definition, and here's the template. This is what it should output, right? Yeah. That's another requirement. Templates are removed from the stream, which means that, like, I could actually use this same test. So this is actually kind of a duplicate, because I could open this file real quick. Let me do it here. Ooh, maybe not. Yeah, since I know I'm already here. Now, usually when you make a unit test, you want to deal with like the simplest cases, because it allows you to figure out exactly what's wrong whenever your tests fail. So like in this case, this is not exactly the simplest, but it's pretty simple. Ugh. So here it is. The idea here is there's a trophy template that's defined, but there's no definition, or there's no instance of it. And so the output is just going to be this one thing. It just gets copied and the trophy template disappears, right? So where is our class? Yeah, here it is. Yeah, you know, we're saying that they're removed from this stream. And then we also have a recursive one. So another thing you want to test with your tests is that they can actually fail. And this is why it's nice to do TDD, test-driven development, or at least think about test first, because if your test never fails, you can't make sure that it actually is correct anyway, you know? A test that never fails is a bad test. It's not a test at all. So basically, let's say I wanted to make this one fail. The idea here is, you know, maybe it just copies the template over too. I could do that real quick. It's just here. Okay, so now let that compile for a second. We'll rerun this, and we'll see which ones fail. They actually probably, stream without template should be the only one that succeeds, I think. Because this affects every single template. Yeah. So it's just like that. And now we're like, okay, now we know those tests fail. See, what you want to aim for, though, is you want to aim for only one test should fail if you only make one change. It's a really hard thing to aim for, but the idea is that your test should be, there should be few enough tests to where each basic requirement is made, and just enough tests to where each basic requirement is made. So you want to have a delicate balance. And these are definitely not the best tests. But you know, they're decent. Let me just make sure that, okay, I fixed that problem. So let me make sure that it works. You just run them all. I can't believe I took so long to do this. Testing is so important. It's just I didn't know how to do it, you know. Yeah. And this class is my ugliest class, so don't judge it too much. It's not a good class. It really needs to be broken up. But that's why I wanted to test it, because I know it's not a good class. So it's a very dangerous part of my code. So I wanted to start making tests for this. Both because making tests for it will help me refactor it. It'll make it more modular, it'll make it more extensible, and also because it helps me find any bugs in it. But, okay, I think that's enough for this video. So thanks for watching. You know, like and subscribe. Peace out.